that we were going to fire the big gun, the 76 millimeter. All right. So we were told in the class, in the sight reticle, a line and a space. Each one is 200 yards on the ground. A space is 200 yards, and a line is 200. So two of those is 400 yards. Well, somebody wasn't paying attention on that thing. One of them put the gun up like this here, and no one's seen it. None of the instructors seen the gun. It should have been like this here. It was like this here, and they set it off. Boom! Choo! Off went that round. Guess what? It hit a drugstore in town and blew the whole top off the drugstore. The people over there thought World War III started.
Who wouldn't?
Oh my God, it blew the whole thick corner off. Because of that incident, next thing you know, you never seen so many politicians, including Harry Truman, everybody from Washington, wanted to know how the hell did this happen. But because of it, the 325th, and all our tanks and trucks and bulldozers, the whole thing, were driven down to the railhead, and they were put on flat cars, our whole outfit. Where are we going? We're going to the Mojave Desert in California. It took us 5 weeks on that thing. So we went to the Mojave Desert. Ooh. Now the Mojave Desert, you can fire that gun in any direction you want. You ain't gonna hit nothing. Nobody's gonna. It's from our barracks to the main gate to go to town. It's 50 miles. 50 miles. That's a big base, you know?
Yeah.
So but the only thing is, by 10 o'clock, it's 100 degrees. By 2 o'clock, it's about 120 degrees in the desert. I said, Jesus Christ, I don't like this at all. But I had a hot rod, a 32 Ford tub with a 60 horsepower motor with a leaky water pump. And
a leaky water pump.
Leaky water pump. And I had
cigarette lighter didn't work.
I had tailor-made clothes and everything. I had a green helmet, and I had a nice girlfriend. All right, and I figured, boy, I'm going to stay here for life. Well, all of a sudden, June 22nd, 1950, the North Koreans jumped the South Koreans. And I got a call to go to the orderly room. I said, oh, I was a corporal. So I said, oh, I'm finally going to make sergeant. You know, so I run all the way to the orderly room, and they got a thing for me. They hand me, and it says you got 10 days to get home and back in Seattle in 10 days. It's 3,000 miles this way and almost 4, maybe close to 5,000 to Seattle. So I went home and did everything, and off we went through
Korea.
Yeah, Korea. So it said that you were going to Pecan. It didn't say Korea. It said you're going to Pecan. So I told the other guy, Pecan, that's an island loaded with girls. Wow, whoa, what a detail we're getting. So the train went, so we went to the Mojave Desert. It must have been about 6 months there. And then the Korean War started on the 27th. So I had 10 days to get home and be in Seattle. And then they put 500 of us, half of them were Marines and half were Marines and half were Army guys. Yeah. So off we went. They loaded us on. Well, we got there, and then they put us on a ship. It took us 32 days and two typhoons in the Pacific. Oh my God, am I glad I didn't go in the Navy. I was sick as a dog. So was everybody on that damn boat. So we landed in Seattle. So we went on the ship, and they took us to Japan. And we got off from Japan. We went to some military base there, and they gave us an M1, okay? And an M1 has a clip with 8 rounds, and they took us to the rifle range to fire that gun before we go to Korea. So the bull was 100 yards away, and it had to be maybe 18 inches in round, and they gave me that M1. So I put the clip in the thing, and the sergeant looks, whoa, he says, it's right on the bottom. It's right on the bottom. A little bit of the black, and so I said, okay. I text the sight, and I go back 2 clicks. Boom! Right in the center. The next 7 rounds I put right in the center. The guy looks at me, he says, you from Kentucky? No. I said, why? He says, I've been here
From Pawtucket.
15 years. He said, I've never seen anybody that's never seen this rifle and put all 8 rounds in the bullseye. He says, you know, maybe we ought to keep you here as a gunnery instructor. No. So I got to go to FECON. Yeah. But I didn't know where the hell FECON was.
Yeah, you probably should have stayed where you were to be a gun instructor.
You're going to Korea, buddy. So we arrived in Korea, but the North Koreans had already taken Seoul, okay? They were in Seoul when we got there. So those Marines and me, what happened, MacArthur seeing that the Marines were too thin to cover 150,000 miles across Korea, so he took 2 regiments from the 7th Division, the 31st and the 32nd Infantry. I was in the 32nd Infantry Regiment, and they put us, that's how I get in the Marines. That's how I got in the Marines. So seeing that I came from the tank school, and I was an expert on the 30 caliber machine gun and everything, the Marines put me on a 30 air-cooled machine gun up in the Chosin Reservoir. Yeah? But while we were up there in the Chosin Reservoir, we could look down into Manchuria, and there were 350,000 Chinese, and we were told not to fire, not to go down there, not to fire at anything, and there was the Air Force was not to fly over Manchuria. So MacArthur had Truman buffaloed that the Chinese would not get into this war. He ensured him. Boy, was he wrong. We were supposed to be home for Christmas. We didn't go home for Christmas. That's for damn sure. All right? So anyways, where they put me, there was a 40 millimeter anti-aircraft gun, a double barrel pom-pom. Over here, maybe, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 feet away, there was a quad 50. That's 4 50 caliber machine guns. Both those are illegal against the Geneva Convention to hit, use against troops. No way. Okay. So I got about 30 cans of 30 caliber machine gun, and I had 4 extra barrels, and they went back twice to get me stuff, and they made it. The 3rd time they went back to get something, till this day in San Diego, they only see 1 guy, the captain of the 40 millimeter. All right. So they went on the 15th of November. Because they knew we were going up to the Chosin Reservoir, we had Thanksgiving dinner, the best meal I've ever had in the Army. And they only did it because where we're going to be eating sea rations or a salt ration. You ain't going to have a hot meal. What a meal we had. Everything, soup and nuts, all right, for Thanksgiving. That was on the 15th. So we went to the Chosin Reservoir, and seeing that I was an expert on the 30 caliber machine gun, they put me on the 30 caliber machine gun. The 40 millimeter was over here, the quad 50 was here, and I was in the middle with my machine gun. When they changed barrels or put the new belts of ammunition, I made sure they didn't rush them and try to knock those two guns out. That was my job until I ran out of ammunition. Well, we fought them around the clock for 5 months or 5 weeks, whatever, and for 5. Well, anyway, we didn't eat, we didn't sleep, we were out of ammunition, we were down to hand-to-hand combat. I killed so many, I had to move the gun twice because of the bodies that were piled up. I had to move the gun twice and to change the barrel or whatever. So they tried to rush down and we just mowed them down. And in 10 days of fighting, we killed 32,000 of them. In 10 days of fighting, to fight a way out of this trap, we ran it up to 45,000.
How many Americans?
And the Americans, the 2 regiments from the 7th Infantry Division, the 31st and the 32nd, we were on the east side of the reservoir. The 5th Marine Regiment was here first. They set up all the defensive stuff. Well, when MacArthur put us up there, they were furious, the Marines, with us. Because now they took those Marines and they put them on the other side, on the west side, all right? The 2 regiments from the 7th Division were on the east side. The Chinese came down the east side of the reservoir. Don't forget, we're 80 miles in North Korea. We're in their country. As a corporal, I couldn't understand when we pushed them all the way back. Why didn't we go home then for Christmas? But he convinced them, that the Chinese are not going to attack us. Yeah. Well, they came all the way down the east. They cut everybody's throat. When artillery, mortar, and medic killed them all. And the six guys that we got in the 3 bridges, they cut their throat too, all right? So now, then they blew, that's when we knew we were in trouble. When they blew the 3, after they killed all those people, then they blew the 3 bridges. Then we knew we were in trouble when we heard the bridges being blown. Well, I'll tell you, they came out of so I can't. I thought it was going to be my last day on earth, all right? Of my regiment, of my regiment of 6,000 guys, only 77 of us made it home alive. The rest were all killed, frozen to death, or whatever. But I found out the sleep under the snow in my sleeping bag, under the snow, was warmer than sleeping on top of the thing. And what saved me from my feet not being frozen and amputated, I wrote to my son, or whatever, my brother, to send me some bobby pins, big ones like this here, and some wool socks. So what I used to do, when I stopped walking in the day and getting into my sleeping bag for night, and it's about 38 below zero, I would take my shoes off and take I used to put them underneath my armpits during the day, and they'd be nice and dry. So that's how you freeze your feet. Yeah. They sweat, and freezing, and you're going to wind up freezing your feet. That's a saving of doing that. So, in my estimation, if the captain and the colonel had not, the lieutenant and the captain both killed outright. The colonel, Colonel Fate from Los Angeles, he got hit in the chest with either mortar or artillery. I have no way of knowing. But on the 3rd day, he said to us, we're out of ammunition, we haven't eaten, we haven't slept. And the Marines were escaping, they were going. He says, this is South. Don't stay. They're very efficient with hand-to-hand combat. You're only going to lose your life. Go. I know you can't. They put the Dailey Bridge up. The Marines left with everything. All their dead, their wounded Marines are very, very good on all their trucks and all their stuff. And walk until you see more southwest, and you'll see the Marines and the planes diving down. Get on the ass on the end of them and go out and save yourself. and that's why I'm sitting here